Well, that guy sounds pretty impressive. I think yeah. So as Tangela said, I'm Lee Osborne, and we want to give thanks to Tangela and SoulSearch for hosting this wonderful expo. Is this the second or the third?
Third year in San
Third here, in my second time here in Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley. And thanks to the Hilton for having us. And good morning. So as Tangela said, I was born in Mount Shasta and I grew up in that area. I graduated from school in Dunsmuir. My dad worked for the railroad. I went to college at the Siskiyous in Weed. You guys have seen the Facebook thing with the guy standing under the sign, Weed College. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I was back there in those days too. Moved on to Chico State. I worked for the U.S. Forest Service fighting what we then called forest fires and are now wildland fires. And I did that for 5 seasons out of McLeod there at Siskiyou County also. That's how I paid my way through college. And I thought I wanted to be a full-time firefighter. But the thing about it is like, you know, when it rains and snows, well, you know, not an awful lot of fire to fight. So even though I was on the Federal Register, I was on winter layoff. So, and there was no guarantee of how long that was going to be. And so you'd have to work for them for a long period of time. So, but while I was doing that, the guy that came to me said, hey, that I worked for came to me and said, hey, you know, there's a job over on the Tahoe National Forest, which is Nevada City, Grass Valley, Truckee, Sayreville, up in that area. And I'll see if I can get you this job. Well, the problem was it was 2 steps ahead of where I was, and they weren't willing to make that jump. So while I was sitting around on winter layoff, the local police department was looking for reserve police officers. And I said, you know, yeah, last winter I spent my time skiing and hanging out in bars and playing pool. Maybe I'll try something a little different. So I went to work for the Dunsmuir Police Department as an unpaid reserve in the fall of 1974. And in the spring of 1975, it had been a wet winter and wet spring. The chief of police offered me a job before the Forest Service called me back. So it was about the same pay without the overtime, and it was full-time work. So I worked for them for 1.5 years, and then I moved to Truckee on the east end of Nevada County. So was I destined to wind up there? Well, yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, you know, Forest Service boss tries to get me a job on the Tahoe National Forest, where I would have been probably around Truckee or Lake Tahoe. And I eventually wound up there, but it was just a couple of years later, where I was working for the sheriff. And I worked for the Nevada County Sheriff's Office for a little over 30 years. 20 years or so, a little over 20 in Truckee, and a little over 10 in Nevada City. So I have 32 years, 3 months and 15 days for those of you keeping score at home, as a full-time law enforcement officer out there in the naked city, crushing crime, facing death, keeping the streets safe for women and children, and striking terror into the hearts of evildoers everywhere. And I retired in 2007. But wait, you say. If you started your spiritual journey in 92, but you didn't retire until 2007, how does that fit? How does that work? Well, let me ask you this. Who here is a psychic? Okay, spoiler alert. Everybody here is a psychic. Everybody here has gifts. We are all born with psychic and spiritual gifts. We come into this world with it. That is part of our legacy and part of why we come down here. Now, what happens? Well, this is woo stuff. It's things that you can't see, touch, taste, smell, or measure. Okay? So our parents and our peers and our school and the big people in charge grind that out of us or cause us to step down and step on our psychic gifts because, well, that's not real. You're just making that up. This chair is real. Here's another spoiler alert. No, it isn't. Everything is made up of atoms and molecules, and they're mostly space. This is all an illusion that we're living in. So the things that we think are solid and are real are stuff that we've all agreed collectively that are. So I would know stuff. I would have deja vu moments. But I would have, wow, I don't know what that was all growing up. And I learned to stay, maybe better. This stuff is better not talked about. So in January 3rd, 1990, my first wife died of cancer. So it's going to be 35 years. And I was her caregiver for the last months of her life. And it was the single hardest thing I have ever done in my life. And I remember I was working for the sheriff's office then. And she was in the hospital, we thought she was going to pass, and she didn't. She rallied around. And I'm sitting in the waiting room at Tall Forest Hospital in Truckee with one of my best friends in the world, the one I have known all of her life, because I'm older than she is. We grew up just half a block from each other. And the woman from hospice, and they're saying, you have got to be her caregiver. And I'm just like, tears are running. And I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. But I did. And people showed up. Not just my friends, people that I didn't expect. People just came out of the woodwork and said, we're here to help you. So what's the lesson here? If you think you're alone in the world, you are not. If you think that you are that you're the only one that is going through the trials and tribulations of whatever, you are not. And when you open yourself up for this help, people that you don't even expect will come in and help you out. It was amazing. And it's the only way I got through it. And then we fast forward a few months, and it's on New Year's Day in 1990, and the hospice nurse comes because she was coming every day then and said, it's time. She's got to go into the hospital. She needs 24-hour care. It's almost time for her to pass, and you can't do this anymore. And I was getting like maybe a whole hour of sleep a day, and I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. Made the shift. And it was, while it was the most difficult thing I'd ever done, it was the most profound gift that I had. And so a couple of years later, meanwhile, another very dear friend of mine had been working on herself spiritually and psychically for about the last 4 or 5 years and talking to me about this stuff. And so she was the woo-woo one, and I was a person grounded in reality here, And I figured out whatever I had been doing in my life wasn't working. Maybe I could give this stuff a try. I was in Mount Shasta, California. I was up there. My mom family still lived in Dunsmere. Was in a bookstore, and here on the wall was a poster of a woman who looked very, very familiar. It said, "Transform Your Life, Weekend Workshops in Mount Shasta." So I wrote the information down. This is pre-cell phone camera days. Wrote the information down. Actually, what I did is I pulled the poster off the wall, and when I went back to Truckee, I just sat down and wrote her a check and said, "Okay, I'm coming." get a phone call from her. What do you think this is going to be about? What do you expect? I don't have the slightest idea. I've never done anything like this. No. And prefer. So I went to that workshop. Wow, it was 2 days. It was only 2 days, but it was fascinating. And I wanted some more. But it was scary. I'm stepping off the cliff. I'm going to try and walk on water without even knowing where the rocks are. Courage, as my teacher Almeen tells us, is moving forward without knowing what the truth of our next step is. What does that mean? That means getting out of our comfort zone, right? Knowing that, because here's the path we've been walking, and we know where it goes. It's pretty well worn, and so there's a nice groove there. We can follow our own footsteps. But if we take, is there a path here? It's not that I'm taking a different path. You know, 2 paths in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by. Well, that wasn't even one that I saw a path. It's just like, okay, I'm going to just take a step here. So not knowing the truth of our next step, because I didn't know what was going to go on. And it was scary stuff. And I'm going to share deep things. Whoa. And so it was so powerful for me, though, that I went back a few months later, about this time of year. It was in the fall. It was the second workshop. You think the first one was scary. Now, I did know what's coming. Uh-oh. And my friend, this woman, was going to come with me. Whoa. Okay, it's kind of one thing. We can all sit in a circle, right? We can go to a seminar where the people that we're with, we don't know, and be seen again. Okay? Take your best friend, and now you're going to open yourself up. They're going to get a real peek behind the green curtain. And if she sees what all this muck and yuck and icky stuff that's in here, how's that going to affect us? We're still friends to this day. Very dear friends, very close friends. And we help each other in our psychic and spiritual growth. So this stuff is scary, folks. But things don't happen unless we step out of our comfort zone. We don't get growth, we don't get change. We're not going to change our lives until we change our habits. And that requires us to step out of our comfort zone. And because I'm paying attention, because I'm paying attention to what I eat, I'm paying attention to what kind of sugar I put in my body, and paying less attention than I need to exercise or whatever, but I have lost 40 pounds in the last 10 months. And I'm continuing to drop. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Do I like it? No. But the change, but I'm healthier and I have more energy. When I stepped out and decided to go to massage school. So this is in 1992. 1 year later, I come out of a 1.5 year assignment to a DEA North Lake Tahoe Drug Task Force, my second. And I take 6 weeks off, and I went to Phillips School of Massage to become a massage therapist. Ooh. Because, there's only 2 reasons I put my hands on people. One of them was to take them to jail. But I had been getting routine body work. Now, okay. Here's how we switch off reality, okay? I had been getting, from the time that I started studying with Noor and Mount Shasta, I started getting routine body work. A wonderful woman in Truckee opened her house up and had several massage therapists who had gone to Phillips School of Massage. That's how I found out about it. And I'm getting body work. So I decided, let's go to massage school. So I go to massage school, and it's the third day in, and we've been doing a lot of talking and some techniques and things like that. And we sit around in our circle, and to pass a talking stick, and Judy says, "Okay, tomorrow we begin working with oil." Well, okay, that happened because hey, it's so that means that you have to get undressed. There are 35 of us in the class. There's 5 guys. Now, who wants to get in a car and drive 100 miles an hour to a gunfight? There's 20 or 30 people fighting outside a local saloon on a Saturday afternoon. Oh, by the way, one backup's been blocked by the train because there's just you and one other person, and your other backup is like one's 10 miles west and the other's 10 miles east. Who wants to do that? I'm your Huckleberry. Get undressed in front of 30 women? In which instance was I more likely to die? Yeah. Yeah, they're right. The gunfight. Oh, hello. But I overcame that fear. And I learned, and one of the things that I learned is that, nobody was paying any attention to me. Everybody's trying to remember what the technique is they were supposed to be learned, or if you were the first on the table, get out of massage land and try and remember the technique. And that everybody's beautiful. Everybody is beautiful in its own way. So that's how I got to be where I am. And after I retired, I began studying with Almeen in Newport, Oregon. Studied with her for 4 or 5 years. I studied with Judy at massage school for about 4 years. Because after I graduated, I became a student assistant. That's where I got my little massage pen here for being a student assistant. Until I got as much spiritually out of that as I could. So that led me to doing these sorts of things. I had a dear friend who was one of my student assistants in my class, kept saying, you've got gifts, you need to bring this stuff to these fairs. So once again, got to step out of my comfort zone and start doing fairs. Well, I started really slow. I started just doing the Nevada City Psychic Fair. They do that once a year. Not so bad. Nobody's throwing rocks at me. Nobody's running screaming from the table or any of that sort of stuff. So I did that for a few years, and then I started learning from the folks about these other shows and started to get on the circuit and expand. And at each time, there's a little discomfort because we're trying something new. And I'm still continuing to work on stuff. I'm still trying to learn stuff that I don't know. Because quite frankly, again, if we don't change our habits and we don't change our patterns, we're not going to change our lives. And it's comfortable. I'd reached a level, and I was pretty comfortable. Except that my practice wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. Oh, so that means I've got to start doing other things, like talking to people. So I'm developing that too. So, and here we are. Here we are. So, and you're here because you have questions. Who doesn't have questions, right? I mean, who doesn't have some questions or some worries or some concerns about, am I in the right relationship? My relationship seems to be stagnant. What's the next step? Am I doing what I am supposed to be doing in life? What is my purpose here? Am I in my right livelihood? Am I in my right employment? Am I even living in the right place? Because, see, change your location, you change your destiny. I could have stayed in the town that I grew up in, like my brother, and went to work for the railroad. Just kill me now. My brother lived his life dream. His dream was to go to work for the railroad, like my dad did, like my granddad did, one of my uncles, and get married and raise his family. And he's living the dream, I'm telling you. That wasn't my dream. I could have stayed with the Forest Service. Would I have eventually found myself doing this stuff? Maybe, maybe not. But my life purpose is to help people and to be of service. So I was of service. I received an invitation to apply for the U.S. Military Academy at West Point between my junior and senior years of high school. And the powers that be said, hey, if you want to go to the military academy, fill it out, you'll get the appointment. What would my life have been? Well, the thing about it is when that came in 1968, guess what was going on? Yeah, our little excursion into Southeast Asia. And I wanted no part of that. Part of me kind of did, but the rest of me did. 1971, I had a choice. I was walking across campus, Chico State, and here's a military recruiter from the Army. Oh, you got 2 years of college. We can make you a warrant officer pilot. You can fly helicopters. Now, flying helicopters sounds like fun because I like flying in helicopters. I really like flying in helicopters. Only one problem. We're sending helicopter pilots to Vietnam where people were shooting at you, and I wanted, again, no part of it. What would my life have been if I had taken some of those challenges? If I had gone to San Fernando Valley and lived with my aunt and went to San Fernando Valley State College. Very different from what I did. Okay, so why am I here? I'm here to talk to you about, and that's about enough about me. Anyway, getting answers to your life questions, which is what I do. We all have a team of guides and angels. We come in with a team of guardian angels to stay with us through our whole life. We have guides that switch out through the various stages of our life because we need different guidance at different stages of our life. But these are all folks that are here to make sure that we are living our best life, that we are being the best that we can be, that the lessons that we came down here to learn, we learn in as gentle a way as we possibly can. Some of us got to do it the hard way, but we don't have to. So how do we know how to do these sorts of things? Well, you come see people with me and you get readings. And the cards will tell you what it is that's going on, what is maybe stopping you before, what's happening with you now, and what is the likely outcome if you make the changes. Now, these are a snapshot in time. And as you make the changes, the energies change around you. We have free will. Now, the cards can say, here's what you need to do, and you can decide, that's not for me. Okay. Then you keep down the same old path. And that's all right. You have the free will to do that sort of stuff. But if you want to make change, then it's people like me that can help you out. I don't know how to start. Okay, well, I have an introductory package that I offer for today and tomorrow only. That is pretty steep discount. I have ways that I have 6-month and 12-month packages. You can get readings every month or for 6 months or 12 months, just to see what's going on. And part of that includes what I call Oracle Urgent Care. So if you sign up for one of these packages, then you get 90 days, 180 days, 1 year of just brush my teeth now. I can't do a thing with them. Oracle Urgent Care, in which you can or call me at any time. Now, if I'm busy, I might not be able to pick up the phone right then, but I'll get back to you and answer any of your questions. We can go through any of your crises or things like that. Okay, so, all right, buddy, but how does this really work? Well, let's have a little demonstration. Pick a card, pick a card, any card. Just okay. Our perceptions are driven by our realities, right? The way we see things, driven by our experiences. So I wander in here to check this room out because that's one of the things that I do. And again, that's part of my previous training. Hey, let's see where we are. Let's check out, so that I know what it looks like. So I come in here. This stuff isn't set up. The stands are set up, and I look at the stand here, and I think, whoa, cool. They're using a music stand. Because I have a music stand that looks exactly like this, except with a few less of these adjustments. Why? Because I'm aspiring to be a starving musician. I've played music from 5th grade all the way through. And then I come in here and it's like, look at this a little differently. And no, it's a laptop stand. But so again, we are seeing what we want to see, but then when we stop and maybe examine something a little differently, like, oh, well, it's different. It's kind of the same idea, but it's a little different. And so as we change our perception, it begins to change how we see life. Ooh. So this card is the Reading Feeling deck. What do you seek? What do you seek? Now, these cards will be individual to the people that drew them, but they also, because we're in this group energy, are questions and messages for all of us. So what do you seek? Why are you here? This is really, really powerful. Not just for those of you here sitting listening to me flap my gums. But why did you come to this fair? What do you seek? What in your life isn't working for you? Or everything's working, but you're kind of at that stagnant stage. What are you really seeking? Inner peace. $1 million. What do you seek brings with it another question. What is blocking you? Do you see yourself as not worthy? Do you see yourself as not worthy of the abundance? Well, but you are. Because abundance in relationship and money, in right livelihood, everything, abundant is just energy, and energy is infinite. So more for you isn't less for me or anyone else. You get here, sir. Oh, and for those of you watching at home, this was the first card. And the second card is raise them up. Raise them up. And get this wonderful woman and a little purple dragon here on this card. So raise them up. What are you raising up? Raise up your expectations. Raise up your quality of life. Raise up those who are around you. Your children, your grandchildren, your co-workers, your friends. How? By embracing yourself in your life. By living the best life, you become a way shower. Raise people up by contributing something to them. Contribute to your favorite charity. If somebody's asking for money, give them some money. Because maybe that's what they need. Well, you know what? Well, we have $1. Well, what's the power of $1? There's 36 million people in the state of California. If all of them contributed $1, that's $36 million. Dig it. Okay. Even if only half of them, well, okay, that's $13 million. It's a quarter. Well, that's $6.5 million. Hey, that's the power. And you don't know when what you give is going to be the thing that changes that person's life. You know, I was driving out of here, and there was a person. Yesterday, I was on my way to the store. He's raising funds to distribute to the Native American tribe. So something said, just turn around and give this guy money. So I turned around, parked behind him, and I gave him the donation. When I came back from the store, not a half hour later, gone. So the action that was in that moment to share my abundance. It's the act of sharing the abundance. It doesn't matter what the amount is. Now, is he gone on someplace else? Did he really exist? I don't know. But I know that in that moment, I took the action that was necessary. That came to me because, you know, had I not, well, would he have been back there? Or would I had another opportunity or not? Okay, so we have an owl here with a kind of a dragon or snake tail and some antlers. That's cool. The keys to wisdom has a key in it. Owls are seen to be wise. What is the key to wisdom? The key to wisdom is within yourself. How do you unlock that? You unlock that through meditation and doing your full moon ceremonies and sitting really quiet. Because the things that you want and the way to go about them are all within you. You have this knowledge. You just have to find the key and unlock it. And so, part of that is coming here and listening to people like me to getting readings, which will give you some guidance, to meditating, praying, sitting in the quiet time, whacking the ego over the head with a tire iron, duct taping him up and stuffing him in the trunk for a while so you can listen to this little voice, your intuition. Because that's your team of guides and angels trying to communicate with you and lead you on. And it will never lead you astray. Never. Ego mind, yeah. You're like, oh, well, I'm down to shiny things. Maybe I'll go over here because this will be easier. It'll be easier for me to get down this YouTube rabbit hole listening to all this other stuff than to do the work that I know that I really need to do. Work on my website, develop my business plan, work on my card reading skills. All the stuff that we don't want to do because you work to our shadow. We all have a shadow side. Feel those feelings. Get those feelings of inadequacy, of hurt, of anger, of jealousy, of betrayal that have been with us, that we've been stuffing down, because we're good little boys and girls, because isn't that what we're supposed to be? And if we're good little boys and girls, we will be rewarded. Except guess what? Hey, yes, look at all this thing I'm doing for you. Okay, I do something else. All right, well, I did that. Okay. And you notice that the person you're trying to please, yeah, but I've got one other thing. And so here's the other key to wisdom, is be who you are. Step into your power as the strong, powerful, beautiful people that you are. Without apology, be you. The time to be good little boys and girls, over. We are in the midst of a cultural and social and spiritual revolution. Right now, today, that makes the 60s look like a Sunday walk in the park. How do I know? Because I lived through the 60s. Yeah, that was when I came of age. We had war, we had women's rights issues, we had civil rights, all of those sorts of things. And what are we dealing with today again? Oh yeah, all that stuff except writ larger. So, yeah, I got Spider here with the eye, with the all-seeing eye, the third eye. Weave your reality. Very, very powerful card. Very, very powerful. Because we really do make our own reality. With our thoughts and with the way we speak to ourselves, words have power. So stop telling yourself you're not good enough. Forgive yourself for those things that you did in the past. They're not mistakes. They're learning opportunities. See how that shows it? It's not mistakes. It's a learning opportunity.